Welcome back to the Business Roundtable podcast. I am your host, David Carr, founder of Steward Your Business, where we help leaders, business owners build businesses that really scale with clarity, align teams, and really sustainable growth. You may, if you're living under a rock, you're not going to know this, but most people right now are a part of this massive conversation about AI, artificial intelligence out there in the world, new tools, new platforms, new promises about how everything is going to change. But what I'm seeing is most businesses aren't really aligned and they're struggling with AI. And it's not about how they're going after it in a way. It's really how do they even think about it, because they're getting hit with these things. They're buying tools maybe without a plan. They're maybe chasing trends, hoping that this will fix the problem, and honestly in many cases it doesn't. And this conversation we're going to lean into today is about a very different approach. So I'm excited to have Jason Alexander here. He's the CEO of ChiefAI, who brings really a unique perspective. Hopefully you're going to hear something you haven't heard before, who's a founder who's helped scale $100 million business, has really helped companies turn AI into real measurable results. He's really helped in so many different ways, and he really lives from the way he leads and the way he operates. And so, Jason, I wanted to start there. We'll dig into it, but why are so many business owners getting this whole AI wrong right now? What are you seeing?
Well, first of all, excited to be here, and thanks for the opportunity, David. This is
my pleasure.
I love your show, and the intro that you have here is great as well. I love watching that every time I watch one of your episodes.
Thank you.
I don't necessarily want to start off by looking at organizations looking at AI right or wrong. It's because it's such a vast abyss of information and technology that it's like where without the proper guidance, where is it really reasonable to expect one to start?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
There's AI to me, to ChiefAI and our team is it's a couple of things. There's technology accompaniment, but what it really boils down to is people and process. And where I think a lot of organizations fall down is they focus on the technology, but they don't necessarily focus on the people and process as well. For instance, I'll encounter this all the time where we'll go into an organization that has recently bought some kind of AI tool or AI powered tool.
Yep.
With the idea of making things better, but not better measurably or not better as part of a larger scale plan. It just seems like it might make one aspect of their business work better. So we're going to go ahead and try that without really giving thought as to what the ripple effect of that might be, what the competency of the user base needs to be in order to really make sense of the tool in the first place.
Yep.
And oftentimes that's where it falls down, because if I give you a guitar, I don't hear any music, David.
Yeah, right.
But then I forgot to train you on how to play it.
Yes.
And that's a great, that's an analogy I've stolen from other people that I absolutely love, because in order to get to a point of efficiency and competency, you need to be able to think like somebody that is now qualified to have either a suite of agents available or a suite of new processes available. And that oftentimes requires training, expectation setting, governance. And if that framework and those guardrails aren't necessarily in place, you're depending on luck as opposed to skill and strategy to make you successful.
Yeah. The way I hear you saying is there's this illusion out there that if I, in your analogy, give you the instrument, you'll just know how to play this and make sweet music. And it sounds to me like owners are chasing this down and somehow thinking that this is going to be a silver bullet. Like, oh, this is just going to be a tool. And I've seen this before AI, Jason. I mean, I've seen this in different software in the past of like, oh, enterprise resource planning software or something like this. If we just buy this solves our X problem. And what I'm hearing you say is that's not the answer. I mean, it can certainly help, but just by getting the tool in your hand doesn't solve that. That's kind of to feel like that's the illusion, if you will, that people are buying into, if you will, Jason.
I think so. Well, I think that speaks to half of it, right? Because we talked about, like, what you're talking about is usability training. So, and that's, don't get me wrong, that part's important, because if I'm going to give you a new tool, a new software, a new toy, a new anything to play with, we're going to have to teach you, click here, click there, do all the things to make it work properly. But the bigger piece, the more important piece, and sometimes the hidden piece, is, to me, is if I'm going to put in place an AI strategy, AI process, and a series of accompanying technologies to make you, David, more efficient, what I need to make sure I'm doing is ensuring that you know how to think and operate like a strategist now. And because maybe you were, in this particular case, an entry or mid-level doer, and not to knock the doers of the world, it's all good.
Yeah.
But not necessarily, primarily a tactician, but not a strategist.
Yep.
Well, if I'm going to free up, I'm telling you, I'm going to free up an hour and a half of your time every day, because you're not going to have to deal with these repeatable administrative tasks or whatever the tool and process might do for you. I also need to make sure that you're able to think in a way that guides you down the path of adopting new and more profitable and productive processes and actions, in order to make that hour and a half now work for you. And if I haven't done that, well, now I really don't necessarily have the control or the vision into what's happening at David's desk for the next hour and a half. What's happening? I really thought this is one hell of a.
They're like at your desk. We got to get a hold of Jason.
Yeah, I know. It's my PR team telling me that I'm doing everything wrong. No, it's so what, when it comes to AI literacy and readiness, that's probably one of the largest areas that companies fall down in, is to make sure that the users are now thinking like strategists.
Yep.
Or thinking like delegators. If I give you a tool that can do a bunch of your work for you, it's very similar to me giving you an employee. And you need to know tactfully and strategically how to chop that work up and pass off what needs to be passed off, and QC what comes back to you, while also maintaining your own personal productivity.
Yeah.
And that can be confusing. That can be overwhelming. And that oftentimes fails miserably.
Would you say, Jason, to your point on that, is that, so they're chasing these things, trying to solve but what I hear you saying is that they're trying to solve, maybe they have these powerful tools, but they're trying to solve unclear problems. Like, okay, what exactly am I trying to do with all this? I've got this new person. I'm not sure exactly how to apply it. And we're just, so yeah, you're getting stuck there. And then it's like, okay, well, this doesn't really help us. It's making it almost worse in some regards.
In a lot of ways, it can be. I've been part of this in my own companies in the past, and I've made a lot of the mistakes I'm helping other companies correct now.
Sure.
Where I've gone and thought, well, this tool set's not working. I'm going to add something to the stack.
Right.
That seems really good. Now the problem is, you already have 5 tools I added to your stack that you're only mildly using at best. Now I'm adding another thing to another layer in there. And if that doesn't work, well, let's add in another one, and maybe 2 more on top of that. The next thing I know, I'm paying for 10, 12 different productivity tools.
Yeah.
Everyone is using them in a disparate way and in an inefficient way, and not necessarily taking a step back from a strategic leadership perspective, saying, all right, what is my, a great example we run a lot of our clients through, the 3-year success roadmap. Let's look at your 3-year success roadmap for what you're trying to accomplish in the next 36 months. It could be a revenue goal, a scale goal, breaking into new markets goal, whatever that thing is. If you don't have that roadmap, I will help build that roadmap for you.
Mm-hmm.
Look at, year by year, quarter by quarter, month by month, the things that have to happen systematically to get that goal accomplished. And then where in that model do we find gaps for inefficiency?
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
find gaps for any one of a variety of things AI can come in and help your organization with.
Right.
When you go about it that way and make AI part of your strategy, as opposed to something that you're just, I like to say, grasping at straws.
Yeah.
And another, like a great example, I had a conversation today. Basically, I'll paraphrase the call. I was on a new sales call with a client who had expressed some interest and said, "Well, really, we're all set. I have ChatGPT for all my employees." And I said, "Well, why?" And it was crickets right then and there. What was the driving force that caused you to get ChatGPT, except for the fact that everyone's doing AI stuff, so why don't we do AI stuff too? And that was about as far as we got.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to get Jason. I want you to unpack a little bit for our audience that don't know. But before you started ChiefAI, again, you're bringing in a different perspective and understanding because you've lived this through other companies and helping them grow and scale. So you understand the company life cycle, if you will, in those evolutions. And so those of you that are listening and maybe haven't had that scale of working in a company, you may not have thought about those things. And so what I think is you're looking at this versus just like a tool, like you just explained this to them, like, here's the tool, I got everybody the tool. That's what I call tool thinking versus an operator thinking, which is what you just explained, how you're looking at this roadmap and planning ahead. And as a founder or an operator, how we got to think differently about AI than what, like you're saying, well, it's just a tool. And I think that's something you bring uniquely, Jason, through ChiefAI. Talk a little bit about your journey before you came to ChiefAI and why you infuse that now with what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, for 20 years prior to starting ChiefAI, I was in the staffing, recruiting, and consulting business from an entrepreneurial perspective. So I had a few partners. We started a company back in 2005, which became 2 companies, which became 4. We acquired a few more, consolidated down, and yada yada yada. It was a tremendous enterprise. We had a number of different offices, great employees, tens of thousands of jobs filled, and really a wonderful story that even continues on today as the organizations are still flourishing. As a founder, and what I found is in conversations with other founders, you've either been there knee deep in the blood and guts of running a business, or you haven't.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I find, and I've really shot for, is when I selected other members of my founding team. I was looking for AI knowledge is important. Don't get me wrong; it's critical. I mean, we're our ChiefAI. We're an AI company, but the number one criteria I was looking for was really deep business understanding and metric-driven success.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want my consultants, I want my salespeople, I want my operators, I want my marketing people, I want all of the people involved with ChiefAI to be differentiated by having a deeper business understanding than the next person who's coming along. In addition to tremendous understanding of AI trends, tools, process, etc. And that, I think, is one of the differentiators for us, being able to get in and have really a deep in the weeds business conversation and talk about a 3-year roadmap.
Yep.
If you take somebody off the street who took a weekend course on how to become an AI consultant, and then try to put them in the middle of a boardroom and having a deep business conversation about anything from mergers and acquisitions to cost of client acquisition to a variety of other things that founders have to deal with, they're going to sink like a stone.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not capable of that aspect of the process, then much like the example I used before, you're kind of depending on luck to choose the right tool, choose the right process, and choose the right means by which you show an ROI
Yep.
for what you've brought in and what you've implemented.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that track record of not just having all this wonderful business success, but also failing miserably over and over again as well, because any founder knows that if you look at really what your job title ought to be, if it represented what you do most often, it ought to say professional failure. Because you try things and you fail and you learn, and hopefully you don't make the same mistakes twice.
Right.
So I find myself in calls with clients, and having everything from giving great guidance on all of this thought leadership around AI, to having self-deprecating discussions about some of the embarrassing failures I've had in the past and how I've learned from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What I hear you saying, Jason, is this isn't just about AI expertise. It's about business judgment that you've developed over many years, and bringing in the right people to help us think, you know, you approach this and think in a way that is strategic. It's not just, oh, I'm just going to grab a tool. It's just not really thinking through it very much. And I think that's, and again, small to mid-sized businesses, I think we get hit with these things, and it's like we're going fast, and you're like, hold on, let's slow down. Because if we get this right, what you're saying, I think if you get this roadmap and think through this strategically, then I think you can actually, to me, use AI as a decision multiplier. Like it can be, but it's we're not basing it on the right foundation, then we're going in the wrong direction. We kind of leaned our ladder on the wrong side wall, so to speak. So, right. If so again, for going back to decisions, if AI is not the starting point, because like this guy, well, this is it. What is the starting point, Jason? A little bit further about where it should be as a business owner. You laid out a couple different things, but where would you start first? Like when you're working with somebody or talking with this gentleman, where's this decision point of like where would we bring in the tool? What do you start with when you're working with somebody, Jason? What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first thing I'm usually asking is something having to do with a success roadmap, and where are the gaps in getting you from point A where you're starting to point B where you're trying to get. We also will go through a detailed, expedited but detailed assessment of the organization. And depending on the organization and the engagement, it could be a department, it could be a small group of employees, or it could be the collective entire business. But we're going to spend time looking at business processes. We're going to spend time accumulating opinions from key stakeholding employees across the board. What do you like about your job? What don't you like about your job? If you could take one thing off your plate and add one thing to it every single day, what would that look like? And we have a scientific process that goes through the right, what we believe anyway, the right questions.
Sure.
And an aggregating process for taking, a lot of times when we ask people these questions, sometimes we'll get eye rolls, and they'll seem really elementary, but when you put them all together in the right order, and you take all that data and put it together, it will then yield some pretty tremendous output in terms of looking at where are the gaps, where are the best opportunities for AI from a most impactful standpoint, where's our lowest hanging fruit. And what we always try to do as an organization is, because we don't believe in silver bullets. Such thing. There's no magic box that you can buy and plug in, and all of a sudden AI just works for everybody.
Right.
So this is, to put it in football terminology, this is not a game of Hail Marys. It's a game of inches. AI is a ground game. So let's come in, let's assess, let's deliver you one win in the shortest order possible, so you can get a feel for what so there's not this vague ambiguity around this AI benefit that you're about to get. You're going to get something tangible that you can look at, play with, smell, taste, touch. And then we develop an incrementally adoptable plan that moves that will move the needle over a series of weeks or over a series of months, that will put in place the next solution, and then the next solution. and then the next solution. But we don't want to go to solution 2 until we've proven the concept of solution 1 and gotten people competent and ready to use it, whatever it is. And then we move on to number 2 and then number 3. Now, is there exception to that rule? Sure, we can implement multiple things at once, but we do try to look at it from an incremental standpoint, because that's the way I think AI needs to be looked at. It's one of the reasons why, going back to my musical analogy, we learn chords before we learn whole songs. And let's do that. Let's produce something that sounds interesting to us. It captures our interest, captures our excitement, gets our dopamine rushing, and then and also caters to a larger scale end game.
Yes, I could totally relate. My correlation, Jason, as I work with people on and not so much the technology, but when you think about the same thing, Jason, I'm applying this to me in Steward Your Business. When I come up with a leadership or team, it's like a lot of them don't even understand fundamentally beyond their technical skills who they are, how they show up, and so it's like getting that clarity first, and then applying it to themselves. And then we amplify and we start working with other people. And like you said, if you start to do this too many things all at once, and you wonder, well, why am I not getting success? Well, you've got too many. I like to use like a laser. It's a diffused laser. It's like, can we just get one maneuver down the field, if you will, like you said, get that, and then we can start to add the complexity in there. And I like your instrument analogy as a musician background myself, Jason. You can't start with an orchestra. If you've had people that have never played their instrument, don't know how to play together, you have to get them lined up first, understanding how they use this instrument and then how does it play with everybody else. And so I like that way of thinking, because what I find is people are going so fast trying to be quote unquote efficient, but to what end? And it's not really getting them where they want to be. They're like, oh, this could be more efficient. I'm like, for what?
Yeah. Or it's not necessarily practical. We live by the tagline, practical AI, measurable results. And it is sometimes not practical to be more efficient. I could come into your business today, your very business, David, and AI enable the whole thing, and perhaps it fails miserably because of what we did. We take, like, if I could put a chatbot in for where you normally would humanly interact with people, and that is likely one of your greatest differentiators is your personal interaction with people. So you don't want to lose that.
Right.
It wouldn't be practical to take you off the board and replace you with an agent.
Yep.
Even though it would open up a lot of time for you and free up, because we just took one of your most valuable, most productive, most profitable actions off the table.
Yes.
We want to leave that on the table, and we want to take other things off.
Right.
And that's not, that's it's to put it in one of my favorite lines, one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm a Jurassic Park junkie.
Oh, yeah.
I love the Jeff Goldblum line. You took so much time to figure out if you could, you didn't bother to think if you should.
Yeah, great line. Line.
And should we AI enable this piece? Maybe not.
Right. I like, you make me think, where does the AI actually create revenue or profit for us? And actually, you triggered a memory. I was at a conference last year, and there's a retailer called Boot Barn, and it was interesting. To your point, Jason, they could have automated their call system, and they decided no, because our clients want to call in and actually talk with a human being. That's part of their experience. But what they did, which I thought was fascinating, and I think this is where the ingenuity, they took all their manuals, which we know all these manuals, which if you're in a retailer, there's a lot of them, and they just they took it in this case Notebook LM and modified it into an audio program that would just play at the beginning of the store. So when people were cleaning up the store or closing the store, we just listen to that. So I thought that was such a creative way of thinking about how do we use this in a way that makes sense, fits within our culture and where we want to go. And I feel like you're asking these questions of these business owners, and where are they going and what do they want to do. So it's not about just doing things faster, but it's doing hopefully the right things better, is what I'm hearing you say.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I also something that we'll always ask lots of questions about the and sometimes people feel like it's too many questions, and I don't believe it is about how do you plan on making AI part of your culture?
Mm-hmm.
If you're
Mm-hmm.
going to start implementing AI, how's it going to be part of your culture? And I've often found that if you were to, with the client that wants the human interaction,
Mm-hmm.
if you were to have as part of your culture, part of your client service replaced with an AI bot, a voice chat, whatever it might be, and you set that expectation with your client, letting him know that this stage of the process is going to be driven through a great AI bot. Just interact with it, you'll love it, and you're going to get to me right afterwards, or whatever the case is. Maybe that doesn't fit for your business,
Mm-hmm.
but it's where I see businesses fall down is trying to trying to mask the work of the AI or trying to pawn it off as a real person when it really isn't. I mean, that makes you disingenuous. That makes
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
um, and I believe that AI from an external culture and an internal culture needs to become part of your narrative.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's a head scratcher for most. Most are like, well, what do you mean? Part of our culture? Well,
Mm-hmm.
it's
No, I
what kind
agree 100%,
of
Jason.
interaction
That's important.
yeah. Your employees are expecting a certain kind of interaction. Your clients are expecting a certain kind of interaction. If you're going to change the game on them, that's fine, especially if you're changing it for the better. But how are you staging that in advance so someone who's used to talking to David or Jason yesterday is now talking to David and Jason, the AI chatbots today
Yep.
without any prompting or warning?
Yeah.
Next year, and geez, this company really took a turn for the worse. What's going on here?
Exactly. Yeah, no, that really brings it home to the folks that I'm working with, Jason, and the shift in leadership. Like, what happens to people and roles in, like you said, in this AI driven business? I don't think they're thinking through all of that, and I think there's this. I'd love to speak to you because I'd love you to speak to this mentality because you've worked in the human talent space previously, and there is this there I see kind of two camps right now. Just kind of like your take on this. There's a plan like, well, let's just AI is just going to take over all this work for human beings, and there won't be anything for others. Or there's another camp where I see no, there is an elimination like of very mundane routine work, but there's a place where we could upskill our people and have them be leveraged in this, to your point of like, how do we do this in a more holistic way? There'll be people that have been here with us, they know what's going on, and I'd love you to get your thoughts on how do we do this, because I think there's a lot of fear in out there, and I just recorded a podcast previously, so you guys can go back and listen to this on fear intelligence. But when fear increases, we don't make very good decisions when we're driven by fear, anxiety, worry, doubt, and so I'd love you to just speak to that for the business owner, because there's some business owners that don't. They're like, I don't want to bring in AI because I don't want to like lay off people, or I'm concerned about what that's going to affect my team. And so thinking about how do we do this in a thoughtful manner, Jason?
Yeah. I don't in the current state of the AI union,
Mm-hmm.
there are some jobs that are being taken away by AI. Now, I have a hard time buying into the notion of them all getting taken by AI.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, those that I fear for, I'm around to answering your
Yeah.
question exactly. Those I fear for are the AI deniers.
Yeah.
Those who say, well, AI is just going to take my job anyway, therefore I'm not going to learn it.
Mm.
And I find fault in that logic.
Yeah.
The messaging I give to our clients is that we're here to superpower your people.
Yeah. I love that.
This is a force multiplier. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you might not hire as many additional people as you normally would have, or whatever the
Mm-hmm.
case is. But if you're a 100-person company and you want to wipe out all your people and replace them with AI agents in hopes to get 100 people's worth of output, like you're not really moving the needle. You're saving some payroll dollars and things like that. But if we look at your 3-year roadmap, you wanted to get to revenue X in 3 years. You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to be getting rid of all your people.
Right.
let's take the 100-person company. Let's fuel them with efficiency and productivity tools that can turn them into thought leaders, into strategists, and into orchestrators. And instead of the 100 people's person output, we're going to get 400 person output out of our 100 people. That's what we're looking for.
Yes.
That's the competitive advantage is taking. And I mean, you're always going to have needs for. Companies are always going to have needs for letting some people go sometimes, or going through layoffs because of hard times. But there is no need right now in most cases. And if anyone's watching this and has an exception to the rule, I believe that there's plenty of exceptions to the rule. But in most cases, we don't need to be laying our people off. We need to be arming them with the tools to superpower their productivity.
Yeah.
And you're going to wind up taking an hour or 2 hours or something like that of administrative or repeated tasks off someone's plate, and you're going to give them more fun, exciting, profitable things to do during the day. You're going to find people more excited. You're going to experience less attrition, and you're going to develop an innovative culture that has everyone operating at optimal efficiency and speed. That's the kind of place people want to work.
Yes, absolutely.
I actually think at this stage in the game, now where AI goes into the future remains to be seen. But at this stage in the game, AI is a force multiplier. It's a people empowerer. It's it really should be in a lot of cases where it's not, welcome with open arms, because it can, it can make you a much more enriched employee. If you're in sales, business development, commission driven, it can make you a lot more money. There's a lot of positive outcomes that can come out of this.
Yeah, absolutely, Jason. It's the same thing I look at when people resist, developing themselves further in their people skills. What I teach, the same thing. There's greater opportunity if you lean into this. Sometimes there's fear, there's worry, but I'm saying you got to move past that and see the opportunities that are out there. There's so much more, and I think, Jason, you're one of these people that are trying to champion that, create that space that people can lean into that, and have somebody there that walks alongside them. I know we're getting to the end of the podcast here, and we could definitely go further, Jason, but if I'm the business owner, or I'm in a leader position of influence where I can say, okay, I can help shape how we approach technology, AI, and otherwise, what would you really empower them to do, Jason, after they listen to this podcast? By the way, you guys, Jason and I are connected on LinkedIn, and we'll put all in the show notes how you connect with Jason and ChiefAI. But Jason, if I'm listening to this and I've got trepidation, I'm thinking about this, what should I be considering? Maybe I have a question I haven't asked you, Jason, today on the podcast, but as a business owner or a person of influence and how they can affect the organization with AI and technology, what would you encourage them to consider and reflect upon?
Yeah, I think if I look at if I look at me being like the luckiest guy in the world, because I've got a great job. And I'll come back to answering your question. I get to do two things all day, every day. I get to empower people to make their businesses bigger and better and more profitable, and I get to geek out on AI all day long. This is a wonderful thing.
Yes,
but it's a very complicated place, and if you don't live in it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for years on end, which I've done, it can be they can be tough waters to navigate. So I also believe wholeheartedly in what we're doing. And my advice to anyone, I think, whether you hired ChiefAI or whether you hired another firm or another person or whoever it might be that you know and you trust and you believe in and you feel philosophically and ideologically aligned with, get somebody in to your business and do it right the first time, instead of having to pay somebody to come and unravel all the duct tape later on and then do it right at that point in time.
Yeah.
Getting some guidance, getting the right starting point, building the right foundation for AI utilization.
Yep.
Is money incredibly well spent. And one of the things I talk about AI enablement, this is a pure investment right now. if I was given the money to, if I had excess cash laying around, and I'm not saying just free cash. This is important stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I could invest in a stock or a bond or a mutual fund. One of the greatest ROI that you can see in your investment dollars right now is AI enabling your company.
Mm-hmm.
For 2x, 3x, 5, 10x return on investment, and we've seen that. We've seen those very stories very tangibly in real life.
Yes.
So these things are possible, but it's going to require some guidance. Maybe just a little bit. For others, maybe a great deal.
Mm-hmm.
But find that guidance. Find that entity that is aligned with you and you feel like you can trust. Bring them in. At least get started off the first couple of steps down the path.
Yes.
with a little bit of guidance and commit to doing it right, and commit to doing it right for your own productivity, but also for the sake of your employees, because what drives employees crazy, and I have made my employees over the years very happy.
Mm-hmm.
I've made them very, very upset through learning, is by giving them a tool that you're ill prepared to utilize. And then here we go again. You develop this kind of boy who cried wolf type of a reputation with your staff members, and they're like, oh, here comes Jason with another great tool, and that's obviously not the way you want to go. So you want to create that culture of confidence by doing it right the first time.
Absolutely.
Biting off a couple of small pieces at first. Feel good about the direction you're going in, and then you've got a fire you can really dump some gasoline on.
That's absolutely. Now, it's been a real pleasure having you on the podcast, Jason. I think you've given us a lot to think about. I really appreciate the conversation. What really stands out to me isn't about AI tools. It's really about how we think, how we make decisions, ultimately creating value in your business. And for those of you that are listening, I want to just encourage you, like Jason said, look at how you're approaching these things. And if you need help, reach out to ChiefAI, among others. Steward Your Business is here as well, because we're here about helping create that clarity, building that strong leadership and team that can really leverage tools like this effectively. And so leave a comment. We welcome your feedback, like and subscribe and all of that. We appreciate you. Jason, thank you again for being here with us on the Business Roundtable.
David, thank you for the opportunity. It's been a lot of fun.
Real pleasure. Thanks, everybody. Until the next episode, be well, take care. Thanks, everybody.